Hey guys, Scott here again. Kind of doing my hybrid today between a what is style, which will be Saison, and the beer dissection, which will be Saison Du Pont, which epitomizes the style here. I kind of took, it was a cork and cage. I took the cork and cage off before I started filming, so I wasn't wrestling with it. But as I'll discuss, it is a very highly carbonated beer, so I'm not too worried about it getting flat. So what is Saison? So unless you're a complete beer geek, this may be a kind of a newer style for you. Saison means season, and it began in the Wallonia region of Belgium, which is the southern portion, which is which is French speaking. And like I said, Saison means season, and they would have these saisonnières, which were their seasonal workers that would work the farms in that region of Belgium. And they produced this beer for them. Now, this is the epitome of farmhouse brewing and kind of the originator of farmhouse ales. So I guess a lot of your microbreweries, nanobreweries, they're trying to, call their beers farmhouse or whatever. They're trying to, exemplify this style of beer at times. However, I won't go into that wormhole too much, but there's not a lot of restrictions on what you can call farmhouse. I think sometimes it's a little kitschy at times. But Saison Du Pont, which I have here, as well as the style of Saison, is the originator of true farmhouse brewing. Like a lot of Belgian styles, this beer is going to be kind of yeast driven. It's going to be, first of all, it's going to be kind of in most cases, especially Saison Du Pont I hear, kind of a blonde to gold beer. It's going to have a lot of esters, kind of like lemon, apple, pear, those types of things. Because it's kind of yeast derived, like some Belgian yeast, it's going to have some phenols, more pepper than clove. So things like that. The BJCP, which I've brought up a few times with you, the Beer Judge Certification Program, those guidelines are all over the road. They have the beer. There's light versions, dark versions, table strength and alcoholic percentage, standard strength, strong versions of it. So it is kind of a wild, wild west of a style of beer when it is being brewed. But if you can grab Saison Du Pont, like I said, it definitely is something that you would check out and would, epitomize the style. The style is usually somewhere between 5 to 7% alcohol. Saison Du Pont that I have here is about 6.5%. Most of these are bottle conditioned. You can get this. This is a 25-ounce bottle. It kind of looks like a wine bottle, champagne bottle. But you can get them in smaller bottles of beer. It is going to be highly effervescent. In one of my videos around Christmas, I said how you can replace champagne with certain beers. This is one of them. It's very effervescent, highly carbonated. Like I said, it is bottle conditioned, this particular one. So you will have a yeast sediment at the bottom. It's going to have, a lot of esters, some lemon, citrus, pear, apple. Again, it's not going to literally have that fruit in there, but those are the aromas and flavors that you're going to get when you taste it. Again, Saison Du Pont, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, is about 6.5%. So kind of right in the range of that 5 to 7%. Again, it's going to have enough bitterness. Hops are not going to be very important in this beer, but it will have enough bitterness compared to a lot of other styles. So it will help with food pairings and things like that. This, interesting with Saison and Saison Du Pont specifically is Michael Jackson, who was a big beer writer as well as whiskey writer in the 70s and 80s. This style, which again, Saison Du Pont came out in the 1920s, started to fizzle out in the 70s and 80s. Well, Michael Jackson in his writings learned about this style of beer. And again, as it almost died out, he knew a lot of influencers in the 1980s and importers, and he urged them to import this into the United States. So kind of got revitalized in the late 80s, early 90s. So again, like I said, it's going to pour like champagne. It's going to be highly attenuated. And what attenuation means is that if things are highly attenuated, the yeast have eaten a lot of the sugars in the beer, so there's not a lot of residual sweetness to the beer, so it's a little drier, kind of like a champagne would be or certain Osties. If it was low attenuation, there would be a lot of residual sweetness to the beer. So this is highly attenuated, again, highly carbonated. It can be very refreshing beer, but it will have enough bitterness to cut through certain things and to try to balance out some of the sweetness to it. So again, Saison Du Pont, kind of the original farmhouse beer. So again, I did open it before I went on camera here. So let me freshen my glass here a little bit. Okay, and let me just check one technical thing here. All right, so what we have is, like I mentioned to you, very prominent white to a very light tan head. It kind of looks a little bit like champagne other than it being more of a gold color. There are some, you can see some of the bubbles coming up from the bottom of the glass. So it is highly carbonated. So, you know, those of you who are Pilsner drinkers or you like Belgian beers, maybe like the Golden Dark Strong, light Golden Strong, Belgian Golden Light Strong, blonde. I'm sorry, I'm mixing my words here. But it's going to be kind of like along that style, but it's going to be definitely have that high carbonation like those styles of beer. Okay, so let me take a sniff of the aroma. Yeah, so the first thing I get are some of those phenols, that light pepper. With a longer sniff, I get a little bit of the citrus, the lemon. I get even like a honey malt type of smell, Pilsner malt. They use Pilsner malt, sometimes rye, some wheat malt at times. Again, you know, Saison is a little bit of the wild, wild west with beers. I mean, they you know, a Belgian brewer in general, they'll scoff at you if you start talking about styles sometimes, like Flanders, the difference between Flanders Red and Flanders Brown, because they brew it the way they want to brew it, and that's it. You know, they don't necessarily get into so much of the styles like we do here in the United States, and we have all the manuals, which again, those are just guidelines anyway. So again, yeah, I get a little bit of that pear, you know, that apple, like kind of that tart apple kind of smell, maybe more like a Granny Smith. Okay, so let me take a swig of this. Cheers. Oh yeah. So definitely highly carbonated. I've had this open for a little bit. Kind of a typical Belgian beer, champagne-like, medium mouthfeel, light to medium mouthfeel because of the lower attenuate or the high attenuation. You know, we let it sit on my tongue a little longer, kind of do a little retronasal thing. You get that pepper, you'll get that lemon, kind of apple flavor. I get kind of like a honey, not oxidized kind of honey, but probably from the malt flavors. There's definitely a moderate bitterness here, even though the IBU units are probably pretty low. I'm a little rusty on the exact IBU for style, but you know, I'd be guessing there's somewhere between that 15, 20 IBUs there. The Saison Du Pont, like I said, started around the 1920s, and then until it eventually started to fizzle out a little bit. And then got rejuvenated by Michael Jackson. Again, Michael Jackson, like I said, the writer, not the dancer, okay, and musician here in the United States. But this is definitely a very nice, easy drinking. If I was going to pair this, you know, I think a kind of a classic, you know, with shellfish, you know, the pommes frites, and, you know, they do with mussels a lot. This beer, they even cook with it a lot. I could see it cutting through some of your hard cheeses, maybe some of your goat cheeses, sheep milk cheeses, like Manchego, even some Stillins, and even some light blue cheeses. I mean, it's got enough carbonation and bitterness to help fight through that a little bit. Even, you know, chicken dishes with some cream, you know, or even some pasta dishes with some acidity there, with the red sauces, or even some of your white sauces, carbonara, things like that. because it has enough carbonation and bitterness to kind of cut through that. You know, even with a steak and you know, fish and chips, you know, it's got, you know, enough carbonation. Like I'm actually, you know, I think if I didn't mention earlier, I did use this beer as a replacement for champagne at your brunches around the holidays. And, you know, you can use this even though it is beer and has a little bit more body than a champagne or even Asti, but it definitely has that effervescence that you'd get with the champagne. But this is really nice. This is one I've had about a year ago. I think it was the last time I had Saison Du Pont. See if there's any other things I wanted to discuss about this beer. But again, the What Is style today, guys, was Saison. Remember the original farmhouse beer from Wallonia region of Belgium, the French-speaking region. Saison meaning season, and named from the saisonniers, which were the seasonal employees helping the farms in that area. Highly effervescent, highly attenuated beer. Very refreshing if you are a Pilsner or you do like Belgian Golden Strong beers like Duvel and things like that. This beer will be right up your alley. So again, I know unless you're a complete beer geek, this may be a newer style for many of you. You can get it in smaller bottles, okay? But it is, in most above average beer stores, you will find this. It's not as obscure as some other styles of beer, but you will get that Belgian style yeast, the peppery phenols, but you will get enough fruitiness to it from some of the like lemony esters and pear and apple and things like that to keep it kind of on a fruitier side if that's the style of beer that you like. Okay, guys, so hopefully a little bit about Saison, classic Saison Du Pont, which I'm going to enjoy the rest of this bottle very slowly here after filming this video. So again, until next time, guys, grab yourself a bottle of this. You won't be disappointed. And if you do, come back to this video and give me your comments about it. All right? Have a great day, guys. Take care.